I learned to appreciate what I have instead of mourning what I'm missing. But the key to this was being. I believe stepping into your greatness is a function of our personal attitudinal energy. And that's not me trying to sound smart. I've just known in my life without arms that when I wanted to be a leader of the people around me, including all of my speeches, it had to be passionate, it had to be informational, and it had to be full of knowledge and wisdom, because we get into a lot of these tangents where we get bogged down in politics, bogged down in the politically correct, bogged down in all kinds of things, when really to be great in our personal and professional lives, we have to work really hard at it, be focused, but more than anything, carry a believing attitude with us that we can do anything. Well, I use my personal experience, and again, not to really focus on this, but there was a lot of negativity that surrounded my life having no arms. I was stereotyped, I was pigeonholed, I was told I would never have any quality of life, and that was a legitimate diagnosis. But I was very fortunate to grow up in a home, a foster home actually, who adopted me, where the culture in our home was amazing. It was very much about independence, pushing me to do whatever seemed like I couldn't be able to do ever. But more than anything, as corny as this sounds, it was a powerful belief that I could do whatever I set my mind on. And I really believe that's a human ability. First of all, we need to learn to communicate. One of the things that I find a little bit annoying about us and our society is we've less talking, more texting. You know what I mean? And I'm not an old guy. I've got a phone. It's right here. By the way, one of the most liberating things about having no arms, I'm not tied to my device. So I'm very mindful of my surroundings and very, very connected during conversations, eye to eye, not being distracted. But again, I'm not trying to be an old person living in a new world. I just think we've lost a little bit of an art of our vocal communication. And again, I'm a professional, so I do have a little bit of an edge. But we can all learn to communicate better. But here's the key: listen more, talk less. How about that ironic part? Well, one of the things that I believe in, and again, this doesn't go directly to the fact that I was born without arms, but I have a very, very personal take on resiliency. And resiliency does not come from a smooth ride. Resiliency comes from bumps in our roads where we must learn to navigate those challenges. And everybody's got them. Hey, we're all up against something, right? And what the most important thing is to not reflect on why me, but more reflect on how can I take this hint and do something better with my life. By the way, I really believe this, unless it's self-inflicted, it's rarely personal that bad things enter our lives, but how we react is everything. Well, I'm sure that part of this mystery has something we've learned from COVID, and I don't want to bring that up because it's a very negative thought in my own mind. But when everybody left the office place to go back home and work from their desks, and I have no problem with that, we lost that ability to be together and recognize that we are all in this together. I've had to find an interesting thing about sort of the world of inclusion and diversity. It's kind of taken on almost a bad tone. And unfortunately, that's a reality today that we face, I think, a lot in North America where I live, but globally. And why I mention that is because diversity is all about the inclusion of people, not because they're special, but because they represent our public demographic. We have so many different kinds of people in the world. We need to be represented by that in our offices. And when we're together in our offices, we can learn that we all bring our story to the table, and we should respect that, but more than anything, play on all of the strengths that our personal experiences bring to the corporate culture of our organizations. Well, I think growing up without arms, I learned a very simple thing, and it sounds, again, a little bit cheeky. I learned to appreciate what I have instead of mourning what I'm missing. But the key to this was being born this way. So not to get into, again, another flow towards warm and fuzzy, we call it over here, but I was born completely normal. The circumstances of my life brought challenges that were related to a society that's not designed for a person without arms. So rather than me becoming resentful about it, I became a trailblazer. I have a list that is so long of all the first things that I did that nobody had ever done before, including getting my driver's license without arms. And I don't have hand controls. That would be redundant. I steer with my right foot on the wheel and my left foot on the gas, but I had to prove to the driving commission that I was allowed to drive legally. And by the way, I haven't had a road collision since 1978. So I take it very seriously. With great responsibility comes a totally important attitude. Well, you know, it's a very personal journey I take people on. And I've learned through all of my years of experience that for some people, it can get quite emotional. They look at me, hear my story, watch all of the things that I talk about in my life that I've been through, and then they start to relate to it on a personal level, where they start to see all of the things they've been through. And when we do that, hopefully the exercise concludes in a very positive vibration, not only through the individuals in my audiences, but the collective energy of all of them together. One of the groups that I speak consistently to are associations, because they bring to the table their professional or volunteer expertise. And we want to make sure that everybody understands you're all in this together, and together we can do amazing things.